I have lots of connections on, all my social media and friends, but I'm still so lonely, and I have to be the best version of myself at every family gathering. But, what do I really do from here? I'm good. I'm fine, right? When I'm not. And to be able to accept and acknowledge that I'm not fine, and that there are thoughts that I need to deal with and that I need to acknowledge. Every normal person is going through the same thing, right? There's nothing wrong with you if you seek emotional wellness support. And I think that's the big myth, that, like you said in the beginning, that there has to be something wrong with you to seek help. It is normal. We are all in the same boat. The degrees may vary, but we are all in the same boat. I love the title of your podcast. I mean, one of the reasons I agreed to it is Perceptions and Beyond, right? Because that beyond is a life that we never explored.
True.
Right? We build perceptions of everybody, and we want people to have a perception of us, and we want to live in this make-believe world here.
I think we need to offload that stress from our mind, that, what people think is the most important thing. Welcome to another episode of Perception and Beyond, a podcast where we explore ideas, innovations, and leaders shaping modern perceptions. Today's guest is none other than Tarun Katial, visionary entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of COTO India, pioneering space social platform focused on emotional wellness, community building, and mindful technology. From leading giants like Z5 and Big FM to creating a purpose-driven digital space, Tarun's journey reflects the future of leadership rooted in empathy, resilience, and connection. In this episode, we dive deep into the myths of digital success, the importance of mental health awareness in tech spaces, and how trust is becoming the new currency in hyper-digital world. If you are passionate about emotional well-being, community-driven platforms, or building authentic digital influence, this conversation is a must listen. Hi Tarun, welcome to Perception and Beyond.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you've gone from media mogul to mindfulness, and you have shifted from being a complete I would say media entrepreneur to, getting into this industry where people thrive together and, they form a community. So what was the mindset behind the whole thing?
So actually, if you look back, even if you Google me on the internet, I've been a proponent for mindfulness for the last almost 20-25 years, right? My brush with mindfulness started with me going for a Vipassana course. And this is early 2000s, right? When mindfulness was not mindfulness, but it was a very honest word called meditation, right? And it was really about looking within and being more self-aware and so on and so forth. And I think it was my karmic cycle of several years that I landed doing what I'm doing now.
Right.
I think the journey that I started in the media business, where there were so many pulls and pushes, and, it was almost given that you had to play somebody else, even off camera, all the time, got me, I think, finally exhausted and tired to realize that I needed to be in a business where I could help people find their own self. And emotional wellness is really, honestly, it's been always a need, but it's finally gotten recognized to what it should be. It finally got the kind of awareness that it should have. And, my life has largely been kind of right time, right place. And, something pulled me into this direction, and one thing led to another. It was almost very serendipitous that I'm doing what I'm doing, and I have the opportunity to be able to serve people through their hours of need on a daily basis. Yeah.
And what was that one shift that drove you from entertainment to, emotional well-being?
So, an incident happened with my wife where, she got trolled on social media. And I realized that people, when they try to be honest about what they're feeling, they don't really get the kind of support and response that they should. Right? And unfortunately, the way we built social media is all about vanity, right? It's about the best version of yourself that you want people to perceive, right?
True.
And it was so built on perceptions rather than reality that I realized that we needed a place, a platform, a home for being vulnerable, being honest. Getting into your most insecure feelings and to be able to deal with them, right? This isn't about changing everything that your mind does, but it's about being aware, right? It's about acknowledging your feelings. It's about acknowledging what you're going through and being okay with it, or at least being aware of it, right? And that journey and that path started from building a community platform and then led to real-time live consultations. And we now have over 300 experts only doing this. And when I, look at the platform and look at the number of people from India and globally who call us on a daily basis, I realize the dire need that exists for living, beyond your perceptions here.
In fact, I would just add to that I think a lot of people now want to move away from what people think about them rather than what they think about themselves, because self-perception for a lot of people has become so important.
Correct.
Why and what people perceive about their own self.
Being
self-image.
authentic. Yeah, being authentic.
Your own self-image is so important that how people perceive you is secondary now. How do you perceive yourself? Because that was never important initially, and now it has become very important. And everybody wants to, at some point, feel, and they have the dire need to live organically and authentically.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the need of the hour, and especially in cities like Mumbai, Delhi, where, the stress levels are so high. You automatically, need to have this feeling, or you have that feeling that I need some sanity in my life, and I really want people who can have that like-mindedness kind of a feeling that, I need a community where I can voice out what I feel.
Correct. And be honest and be vulnerable.
Very true.
And actually, while obviously the pulls and pressures are much more in the metros, but what we are also seeing that across all tiers of cities in India and globally, the problem really remains the same, and it's coming from the dysfunctionality in relationships. Right, relationships have finally, with all this honesty, also become fairly dysfunctional. Right, because increasingly you're more and more aware about your needs, and so when one person is going to ask for their part of their needs, the other person is not going to be,
Correct.
Equally giving, and that leads to issues, challenges, and there are lower and lower compromises on these things. And I'm not saying that people should or shouldn't compromise. All I'm saying is that there is a certain amount of expectation that we all have to manage within, partners, families. That is becoming harder and harder. And 70-80% of clients that we deal with, and we deal with thousands of them, right, on a daily basis, come from dysfunctionality in relationships. And
right.
While they want to solve it, but they also don't want to, give in and accommodate. And so how do you find that balance between what you need and what your partner needs or your family needs, and still be happy? Right, and it's hard.
And also, I think the sounding boards are missing in our life.
Correct.
Who do I speak to?
Yeah.
Who will listen to me?
And who will not have an agenda behind it, right?
Correct.
And your family, unfortunately, is becoming the last on that list because they already have perceptions of you. They already have a certain path that they want you to take. And, control is the big bad word, right? Everybody wants to control everyone, right? And that's a hard place to be in. And that's where, communities, that's where people like you and me, people like our experts are trying to be that sounding board, trying to help people with another perspective, trying to be their friend in that late hour of need. And, the maximum amount of calls come in the night. It's because that's when your thoughts are with you and they're haunting you, and sleep is possibly the most expensive thing in the market. People talk about gold and diamonds. I can tell you that the hardest thing to get by is sleep.
I was just talking to one doctor before, we started. He said that today the most important thing for people is that their health, they need to understand that their health is directly related with the number of hours they sleep, which is missing today. The basic thing, sleep is going out of your life because there are so many things that come to your mind at that point of time, and your sleep is directly related with your health cycle.
People are reducing their number of hours of sleep because they're scrolling in the night, right? And the more they're scrolling, the more they're getting disturbed. The more they're getting disturbed, the lesser their sleep patterns are.
I know.
It's harder.
True, very true. So tell us, what is COTO all about? So
COTO really stands for, everybody asks me this question, stands for come together, right? It's about coming together of people, like you said, like-minded people who have the genuineness in them, who are willing to be vulnerable. And it's really a emotional wellness platform. At the underneath, there are communities for women, but overlaid with real-time 24/7 consultations, which are open to men also now. And almost like 40% of people who call us are men. We recently did an ad where this guy says that I really have no one to talk to. I have so much pent up. I have lots of connections on, all my social media and friends, but I'm still so lonely, and I have to be the best version of myself at every family gathering. But, what do I really do from here? And that ad really resonated. I mean, the amount of people who came into the platform just from that one piece of communication and the power of content, right? That we realize that loneliness is not what we think it is, right? We think loneliness is that, we don't have enough people around. But I think we're lonely amongst the millions that we're living with, right? That loneliness is hard to deal with. In a country like ours where we are like bursting at our seams with our population, there should be fundamentally no loneliness, right? But more and more people are, and more and more young people are very, very lonely.
I think we are all socially isolated.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing that we need to understand, that even though today we have hundreds or thousands of people on our social media, but that is not where our actual vulnerability or openness.
Who's your 2 a.m. friend, right?
Voiced out. Because, who's your 2 a.m. friend or 4 a.m. friend? Because there is actually no one if you look around. And it's so difficult to even have a communication in the family, because you are always having this feeling at the back of the mind that you will be judged, or you will others will come and throw opinions at you. And that's the reason why everybody, sometimes including myself, I also sometimes feel that I need to voice out what I have inside, because you can't filter people and then talk.
And bottling it up is very harmful,
It's
going to figure itself out in another way or another form, right?
Absolutely.
Whether physically or mentally or in a relationship, it's going to find its way out,
Correct. And that is the reason why more and more people are also having mental health issues.
Yeah. One of the things we do now on the platform, besides advice, is also services. And so we do Reiki, we do chakra healing, we do mindfulness practices, and we are now getting more and more services, meditation services practitioners for India and globally, because, meditation is something that everybody thinks they want to do, but most people can't sit with themselves for even 2 minutes, right? And they don't know where to get started, right? It's easier said than done. I've done Vipassana, but I can also tell you that, doing a 10-day Vipassana course, and I've done many courses, is not easy. It's not that taking that first step of cutting yourself out from the world, of doing a silent retreat, that itself, is kind of, puts people off, right? But spending some time with yourself every morning in some form or fashion, whether you journal, whether you do gratitude, whether you do a bit of meditation, whether you just like a walk on the grass with getting your sensations and your feelings in your head, some of that is very necessary to ground yourself, right? Like no consult on a platform starts without grounding. It is a given. And even when you get people to do just 5 inhale and exhale, the conversation that you have with them is very different than when you start with them in that peak of anxiety, right? And when we get callers, they're at their peak of anxiety. I mean, obviously, when I tell my experts, think about it. They saw an ad or they found us on social media. They then downloaded the app. They then did the sign in. Then they decided that they wanted to talk to you, and then they called you. It's a long process. And if somebody takes all those steps to get to you, means the amount of pain that they must be going through.
Absolutely.
And the fact that they have no one to share that with, it must be so high that they've come all the way into your call or into your live webinar to be able to have this conversation. So have a lot of empathy, treat them with, utmost care and kid gloves, because they've taken a journey, right? In earlier days, you took a physical journey to go to a hospital, to a doctor. But even a digital journey is a lot of steps that you take to get to finding somebody that can help you.
And what made you go for Vipassana in the first place? Because I think people who are in the entertainment industry from the outside world, everybody thinks that, it's such a fancy place to be in, and, everybody would love to be in your shoes. So how did you decide that you want to, unwind and,
I think I must be having some past karma, right? And as they call them, parmis, right? When I was very young, almost 26, or even younger than that, I was moving from one job to another. And I have an aunt called Yashodhara Oberoi. She's a very big Vipassana practitioner herself. Suresh Oberoi's wife, right? And I was having coffee with her, and she said, "What are you going to do?" Because I was in gardening, right? And so I couldn't work anywhere for a period of time. So I said, "I'm just going to have fun." She said, "I can give you a good way of having fun." So I said, "What?" She said, "Why don't you go for this meditation course?" I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, you've got nothing to do, right? Why don't you make the most of your time?" And I didn't think too much. And I said, "Okay, I'll go," right? And I went away to Igatpuri, which is where the old Vipassana center or the main Vipassana center is. I wasn't even registered for the course. In those days, you didn't have any websites and all you had to do was call them on the phone. So I'd call them on the phone saying, "I'm coming for this session for the course." And they said, "The course is full, but you can try." So I went there, and I was coming out of a very senior job. So I was had a big, large car. My driver went to drop me. And I got there at about 10:30 in the morning. The course starts in the evening at about 6 o'clock. And they said the course is full. And I said, "So what do I do now?" So they said, "You'll have to wait till 6. If somebody doesn't show up, then we will give you a seat." So I said, "So till then?" So they said, "There's a bench there, you can sit." So, you come from this entire, having lived in Pali Hill and having a great life. Now, this is like a big tectonic shift. They're asking you in a Vipassana center, which is very bare, right? They're saying, "Abhi is bench pe baith jaiye." And so 11 o'clock I sat, I'm waiting, twiddling my thumb. There weren't any mobiles those days. There's the old Nokia phone, right? What can you really do? You can send a few texts to people and that's it. And I waited. And then, it was 1 o'clock and I looked around. There wasn't any lunch for me because there wasn't any lunch for anyone, right? Then I waited a little bit longer. I went to him. He said, 6 baje. So that was 2 o'clock. Then another 4 o'clock, I went back to him. He said, 6 baje. That was my first brush with patience and perseverance, right? I think it was the best grounding experience that I would have had. At 5 o'clock, he felt like I should eat a little bit. So they gave me some biscuit and tea, which was called for the people who were serving there and doing the registrations. And about 6:30, at 6 also he said, Abhi nahi. At about 6:30 he said, Abhi main dekh raha hu. And at 7 he gave me a place in the course.
Wow.
Right? And those 8 hours were quite defining on whether you can really be patient. Now, in another day, I would have said, okay, man, this is like not working out. Another time, another place, and you turn back and you go back. But I think there was some past karma.
You were destined.
I was destined, right?
Absolutely.
There was some past karma, and I waited there, and that was it. And that course really changed my life, yeah.
But I believe Vipassana is not easy for everybody. So was it like a challenge?
It's not difficult either. I think you've got to be ready to be with yourself. There is you and you alone, right? And I've done courses in the UK, in India, in many different parts, and I practice every morning very so regularly. Like Sunday mornings, I do a 1.5 hour class close by at Jamna Bai. I think it's the most grounding experience of my life. It changed how I looked at my life from there on, therefore, yeah.
But what was the biggest motivation that you had that you made this shift from entertainment to mindfulness? Because usually people would not leave such a fancy job for something which is purely for emotional wellness or emotional well-being.
I think I'd done my time. It was 20 years of doing it. Star, Sony, Big FM, Z5. I had run almost every organization in the country. I needed purpose, right? And I realized that, I was at that age of my life that if I wasn't going to do something purposeful, then I wouldn't feel fulfilled, right? And I think just that was my calling, right? Purpose. And that search for purpose can take you very far. I mean, it can take people to the Mount Everest.
The most fortunate thing for people who actually look for purpose is that they actually find the right purpose. Because most of the time they are they are quite confused that what is the purpose.
Yeah. So, but I think when you find your purpose, you enjoy what you do, right? Yeah. Work doesn't stay as work. And
exactly.
It becomes a movement. It becomes your passion, and and it becomes like even the hard times are not so hard.
True, very true. So when we talk about mental health or mental wellness, mostly it is assumed or people believe that only when somebody hits the rock bottom, that is when they reach out to a therapist. But what is the correct way of approaching the path?
Think, like you said, that people have got to stay healthy on a daily basis. You don't have to get to a doctor. You just have to stay healthy on a daily basis, right? And there's a difference between psychology and psychiatry, right? Psychiatry is when you get to rock bottom. Psychology is when you need somebody to talk to on an ongoing basis, right? And in the West, it's always good to continue to have your therapist and go once a while. You don't have to go every week or every month, but have somebody to call on to as a mentor or as a sounding board or as a guide when you need to, right? In India, over the years, some people have their astrologers who help them and talk to them, right? Earlier, we would go to these Gurujis, we go to, satsang, and it was a good anchoring way. And unfortunately, the young are not into any of that, right? Our parents, my grandfather took me to so many satsangs, right? He was a member at a local temple, and he was into Sanatan Dharma, and so he would take me every evening. Some Guruji would come to do the Gita, and I've heard so much of the Gita. Maybe all of that really played out for me in my life. But we all got anchored in some of that as we were young. But unfortunately, some of those mentors and sources are also not true anymore, right? The kind of people that go out and espouse faiths now are not somebody that you can trust. So that's why the need for getting either a therapist or somebody who you can talk to on an ongoing basis and be vulnerable, be honest, right? Start being authentic. So I don't think this should be done when you're really rock bottom and you need to take, medication. This should be done, or you should have somebody in your life. And that therapist could well be your mother if you really have a great relationship with her, bro. Unfortunately, a lot of us have built walls between us and our parents, the generational understanding, the acceptance of not having control over your child and letting them do what they want to, and so on and so forth. It's hard, right? You always believe that you know best for them and so on and so forth. But just having somebody to be honest with is a need like any other, like a gym, like any other in your life.
Absolutely. In fact, I would like to share my, experience. I totally believe in the fact that if you don't have anyone to speak with, we should normalize the process of people going to a psychologist. And I've always told this even to my children, my daughter, that, if you are not comfortable speaking to us in the house, go to a psychologist. Because not always it is necessary that a family member will have to be spoken to. You have to have someone, a sounding board, whether it is in the form of a friend, a family member, or a psychologist or a therapist, whoever. I was undergoing mental health issues during COVID.
Wow.
And I actually hit the rock bottom because I was heavily in depression. And at that point of time, I went to a therapist. It did not work. I eventually had to go to a psychiatrist because I had to take medication. But the fact is that when I discuss this with anybody, they all say, "Arey, kisi se baat mat karo iske bare mein," because, you can't tell people that you were on medication. I said, I need to, and I want to make this a normal scenario because mental health, just like you have stomachache, you take medicine, you can have a problem in your brain. If you have a problem in your brain and if you take medication, it's absolutely normal. And let's normalize mental health first. And I feel very comfortable talking to my psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Because he makes things very normal for me without judging me, without creating any bias in his mind. And I feel totally myself when I'm talking to him. He will say just a few words, but those few words ease me out.
Judgment. I think you touched that word, and I normally use that a lot in my conversation. The no judgment space that you need to create, right? It's really, really important. So one of our experts, right, much like everyone else, she was talking to a young person and the young person was kind of astray in relationships and so on and so forth. At some point in time, she ended up saying that I think you should focus on your studies. And my chief psychologist took that up with her and said, it's not our job to be giving them the advice that their parents will give them. They're not coming to us to be told that please go and study. That's what they hear the whole day at home. Our job is to give them a no judgment space on an ongoing basis. And even we have to remind ourselves all the time, because eventually the roles we play at home and the roles we play at work can get a bit,
absolutely
merged up and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel that the day even the psychologists start judging and start giving opinions, I think the world will completely turn around. Because in the US or any other country, going to a psychologist is very normal.
Yeah, it's a need. It's a given.
Yeah. But here people say, "Arey, tum psychologist ke paas gaye, tum to pagal ho."
The stigma around therapy is very high.
Such a strong stigma, and we need to normalize, and we need to make it absolutely.
So what we did, Suman, is that to be able to ease this out, we realized that people love going to tarot card readers, right? Because they believe that they can predict the future, so on and so forth. And tarot is a very intuitive skill. We got a lot of psychologists to learn tarot therapy. where they use cards to be able to get your feelings out from you. So while people believe they're doing tarot, we do tarot therapy. And so there are psychologists who actually have learned tarot and they do tarot therapy. And tarot therapy is a conjunction of therapy and tarot.
Correct.
And it works beautifully. We have about 40 or 50 of them who do this. And in fact, it works better than pure psychology and it works better than pure tarot.
Absolutely. And I think where you see women and they have this very strong inclination towards, knowing more about themselves, their future. And I think this combination of having astrology and tarot and, mental health solution providers under one roof, I think that is like a win-win thing for them, because this is what they mostly long for. That, what is in it for me?
We need to get over that stigma actually, Suman. And that's why, if you would have gone ahead and said, okay, we only have psychiatrists or psychologists or therapists, people would still have a lot of stigma to come to the platform. So we eased it out, right? We brought in meditation, we brought in tarot, we brought in astrology. So it seemed like an easy place to be. It's a normal place to be. And once they come onto the platform, then they actually very easily move between modalities and find what they need. And they, even if they start with an astrologer, they end up being with a therapist. And even with astrologers, our main aim is to actually teach them empathy, teach them psychology, so that they can always be the person that people can come to talk to. It's not just about your your stars and where they're aligned, but it's really about your feelings. Eventually,
Absolutely.
How you're feeling is most important here.
Absolutely. Like as an image consultant, I have combined image consulting with behavior therapy.
Oh, so good, yeah.
So that's something where I can actually ease people out.
Yeah.
Also give solutions for their appearance, behavior and communication. So that becomes like a plus and a win-win situation for everybody.
I think the biggest issue with, in your kind of business, and we've done this all along in the media business, right? You need to build up right from the winners of Indian Idol to everybody else, is that you start living two lives, right? And some of the image consultants actually in the olden days would encourage you to be somebody else, right? And that became very tricky.
Oh, okay.
Because they will want you to, show the world that you're X when you're Y yourself, right? And playing that Dr. Jekyll Hyde is very risky, right? Because at some point in time, that sham is going to break.
It doesn't work in the long run, Tarun. To be very honest, if you're not authentic, if you're not the real self, it shows very evidently after a particular point of time. So it's not like fake it till you make it. It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a very poor line, And I think what you're doing with behavioral psychology and image consulting, it's a great combination, because it will first of all allow people to recognize who they are. And once they're good with who they are, then when you put them out in the world, they'll be super confident and they will be able to hold their own here.
So the most important thing is bringing people out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And once they're out of that shell, that comfort zone, that is the time when you actually work on them and transform them completely. Yeah. And that works beautifully. Excellent. So people think emotional wellness platforms are another trend. So how does COTO refine digital support? So what is it that COTO does basically for everybody?
So at the first, right, there are two ways that you start using COTO. One, for women, it's coming and joining communities, and they're largely about health and wellness. And second is their ability to be able to do real-time consultations. Our eventual aim is to be able to build an entire services piece, right? Which is where we want you to be able to come here to do mindfulness, to come here to do healing, energy transformation, Reiki, so on and so forth. So our entire play in the long run is around services, around collectively doing things that will make you a better person rather than fix your momentary issue.
Right.
At the moment you come and talk to us, we will help you, we will ease you out, there's somebody to support you. But in the long run, how do we make you the person that you want to be? And that's really the journey that we want people to take here.
So when it comes to, like you said, that there are men also who are members of COTO now. So is there a separate section of people who cater to them, or you have...
women's service providers cater to men too, but men don't join communities. Communities are only for women.
Okay, so how do men become a member of COTO?
They don't become a member, they just become clients where they come straight on and they can
the experts.
To the experts, and they can do a live consultation. Yeah.
Wonderful. So in your experience, what's the biggest lie we tell ourselves when it comes to managing our mental health?
I'm good, I'm fine, right? When I'm not. And to be able to accept and acknowledge that I'm not fine and that there are thoughts that I need to deal with and that I need to acknowledge and that, yes, this too shall pass and staying calm and staying in the present is my way forward. It's hard. Yeah. I mean, I've had times where, I've had to tell myself that the next 15 days are going to be tough, but I'm going to be calm in every single moment. And obviously moments slip away from you. But if you get to that base level of awareness that I need to get through this with calm, you're going to get through it very nicely, right? That awareness of being calm and being present is hard. Because you're not here. And most times you're somewhere else. If you go to a restaurant today, what are people doing? What do you see people do?
Mostly on their mobiles, yeah.
So husband, wife will come to a restaurant, young couple will come to a restaurant, fully in love, booked a really nice place, and what are they doing?
Engaged with their mobile phone.
With someone else, somewhere else. But the person who's sitting across you is not interesting enough.
Very true, very true. This we see every day in a normal scenario also. Everywhere we go, even in a restaurant, the restaurant is absolutely calm, even though it's packed, because everybody is busy with their own self. So I think people are missing that social connection. People are missing conversations. Those important conversations which used to happen, people are also missing small talk.
Yeah. The honest conversations, the easy conversations.
वो जो मस्ती होती थी, मजाक होता था बचपन में, maybe in your time also you must have felt कि
conversations.
वो सब होता था, वो तो नहीं होता है अभी, बिल्कुल नहीं होता है.
And everybody's getting calls in the middle and so on and so forth, right?
I think मुझे भी joke सुने हुए भी कितना time हो गया होगा. Somebody cracking a joke or something.
Funny people, right? Yeah. Impersonating others.
Stupid conversations. I think we really miss all those things. I definitely miss.
Yeah.
So there's a myth that men in leadership don't talk about emotional health.
No, it's not really a myth. Men are, unfortunately across the world have been taught to be in control of themselves and everybody else, right? It's the testosterone level that has to be always high. And unfortunately, men are crumbling within more than anybody else.
But they're supposed to be the stronger sex, which will not talk about their
providers,
feelings and emotions.
Right? They're providers. We've gone through an entire, learning of how you have to take care of the house, you're the provider, and that unlearning is hard. It's hard, right? Being honest with yourself and with somebody else is hard, right?
So being a senior professional when you were, with the entertainment industry, how do you model vulnerability and empathy? I
think, first of all, it's very important to recognize that there is trouble in your own and someone else's head. I mean, once I finished my Vipassana course about 20 years ago, I have pushed innumerable people to go do the course. I think the number would be closer to 20, 30, 40, I don't know, cascading downwards. And every month I get a message from someone saying, I did another course or I'm keeping up my practice and thank you so much. And I think it all started with me being very honest and listen, I was going through shit and I did this and it really helped me. And I know you're going through shit, but I can't help you, but you can help yourself, right? And that acknowledgement that I'm not all perfect really helps. When you're at the top and you can take that, sham down of being perfect, right? And acknowledge that you have trouble, you make mistakes, you're having a hard time dealing with problems yourself, you're having a hard time dealing with being in the present, then when people see you accept that, then they are willing to learn from it.
And I think the most important thing people need to realize that suffering in silence will not get you any award. So people need to voice out, people need to emote, people need to talk to the right people.
Correct.
Which is very, very important. And understanding the fact that there are people who are available to listen to you.
There are modalities that are available, there are people that are available, there are sanctuaries that are available. I mean, there are more fashionable things. I went to this new thing that somebody invited me to. It's called a liquid sanctuary. And it's like they've got the mud from the Dead Sea and you float in water. But what they've done really is that they lock you up in a room and they take away your mobile and any form of light and they put you to float in Dead Sea water, right? Now, this is just another form of being cut away so that you can be good with your thoughts. But, I mean, we can have more glorious and fancy things like this. The very fundamental thing of finding a place, in your house in the morning, maybe, as I do this at 4:35 in the morning, right? When the world is just waking up, it's the most beautiful time.
True. Absolutely. Absolutely. How many people see that phase in the morning every time they get, wake up? Most of the time, even our newer generation, your Gen Zs and, the Gen Alpha, they don't even get up at that time.
Yeah, this is called Amrit Kal, right?
True. So, waking up and seeing that sun rising itself gives you that sense of high that, you are able to see that. And it's a beautiful view, and I do Surya Puja every day. So that's something which actually gives me a boost every morning.
There are very good natural organic ways of getting energy into yourself.
True. And especially after this mental health experience, I have transformed my health.
More power
360 degrees.
More power to you. Yeah.
Whether it comes to exercising, staying fit, doing puja, Surya Puja, also, communicating, in my own way with animals. So that's something which I'm totally, into.
And, sometimes I tell people that, okay, you're not ready for a transformative journey through meditation, but also, starting with faith is not bad. Unfortunately, the young have also lost touch with faith, right? A lot of our parents were not very meditative, but at least they had faith to help them, right? And if they couldn't find any help, they would talk to their God.
Correct.
Right? And faith is a good place to be in, at least devotion and faith is a good starting point to any mindfulness, right? People think, mindfulness and devotion or faith is too different. It's not, right? Even if you're very devotional, you're aware of the right and wrong and you will move towards self-awareness over a period of time. But you've got to ground yourself somewhere.
Absolutely. Very true. Because people need to find that place, that comfort zone.
कहीं तो शुरू करो.
कहीं से start करो. अगर start ही नहीं करोगे तो कुछ होगा ही नहीं आगे life में. So Tarun, what's one behavior pattern you see repeating across people seeking emotional help? And what's the root cause you think is there behind it?
The biggest issue that we've been seeing all along is your expectations from the world. They're never going to be met, right? But that leads to a huge amount of disappointment. And that vicious circle about, that one didn't do as I expected, and so I'm feeling bad, and so on and so on and so on and so forth, is a hard one for people to break. And one of the things we get people to do is to center themselves to saying, okay, you can't expect from anybody but yourself, right? The biggest mistake you make is to start putting the onus of your happiness onto somebody else. Somebody can't make you happy.
True.
You're the only one who's in charge of your own happiness. You can discover your own joy of life. Somebody else cannot give you joy. If you think that somebody around me is going to give me joy of life, you're bound to be disappointed. If not today, tomorrow, if not tomorrow, somewhere else, right? Because however they do, whatever they do for you, right, it's never going to be good enough. And so that path, that vicious cycle has to become the virtuous cycle of where I start taking the charge of my own mental health, my own happiness. my own centering, my own staying in the present. Yeah.
So 3 things if I tell you to define COTO, what are those 3 things?
I think no judgment. First thing, right? We want to be a no judgment. Second is we want to be your friend, right? And third, we want to be a really safe space. Because when you're vulnerable, you don't need judgment, you need a friend, and you want to be in a safe space. Yeah.
And how large is COTO today? So
there are millions of users now. And I mean, we just don't even know how it's growing. We're not
are
doing
people
much.
only from India or there are people from all over the world?
All over the world, yeah. And we're just going to open Australia. So we serve customers from Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE, United Kingdom, Canada, US. And we're going to add a few more countries so that almost every other week and every other month, we add more countries to it. Yeah.
Amazing. So, do you also go and speak at some forums in COTO, or it is
only women? Then I think I'm done with my speaking of so many years. It gives me great joy to be able to help build this platform. My co-founders are Aparna and Shefali, our chief expert Dr. Mona Gujral, and some of the others are the people who really are at the forefront of building the platform from the customer end of it. I really work on the product, the engineering, the customer journeys, demand side generation. And really my play is about also looking at different kind of modalities. How can we bring them together? How can we merge them? Working with universities to be able to look at different kind of modalities. So there's a lot of what it's called a co-lab. We have a COTO lab where we really look at different kind of methodologies, because I've had my own experience over so many years of working on different modalities to see what can help people in what kind of situations.
Lovely. So is there any age bracket for women who can be a part of COTO?
15 plus.
15 plus.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So tell me, Tarun, does healing actually need a community? Because a lot of people believe that healing has to be done in isolation.
I think the role of a community is to be able to help you realize that you need healing, right? When you see more people like yourself, you get inspired, you get motivated to be able to deal with your problems, right? Like we said, the first level of acceptance that I do have a problem and that I need to deal with it is our first hurdle to cross. And the community really, helps you cross that first hurdle. Yeah.
So if one needs to join COTO, what is the first step?
Just download the app.
Okay.
Simple. And for women, you do facial recognition. And so we know your gender and then you're in, and you choose the communities you want to join. For men, you have all your experts that are listed and that are live at that moment in time. Click of a button and you're in their live room. We have a prepaid wallet. Much like the old telecom days or a prepaid call. You prepay a wallet, we charge per minute, and you have a conversation, and your first call is always free. So you also can then choose who you really want to talk to.
And what is the confidentiality?
So all calls are private.
Oh, wow.
Right, so nobody can hear. They're all encrypted, they're all private. Yeah.
Excellent.
And you can also change your identity. In the sense, you can go in as anonymous.
So if a user spends 10 minutes on COTO each day, what's the most realistic, measurable, emotional shift you hope to experience?
I think I won't know whether it's 10 or 15 or 5. It depends on your state, right, where you are. But I think our attempt is to be able to center and ground you. Our biggest effort is grounding, right? Can we ground you into the present? Can we ground you into self-awareness? Can we ground you into realizing that you are responsible for your own happiness? And how can we help you discover that?
So that's quite a valuable and a very meaningful kind of a place where I think you are getting an opportunity to be yourself, first of all, you're also getting an opportunity to be vulnerable with the kind of people you want to associate with. And I think it's a safe space where everybody is like-minded, first of all, and that is why they are all there. That's the most important thing.
You know, the biggest challenge for the young today, even young or even old, is what social media has created, which is that if you and me get into an argument, what do I do next?
Either don't talk to each other or...
And what's the way of not talking to each other?
Block.
This easy block, right, on social media, on WhatsApp, etc. I mean, you know, you're left with no way of reaching to the person to be able to even reconcile.
That's such an important point that today, the shortcut method to disconnect with somebody is to block kar do.
But it is also, you know, it's extremely harmful to both parties here.
Right. Correct. And what impact?
Because you got no closure, right?
True. Very true. Very true.
The person who got blocked and even blocked, both haven't got any closure with each other. They've not had a sane conversation about why this relationship is not working or shouldn't work or doesn't have a future. And now suddenly we're out in the cold. It's cold turkey.
That's so true. And I'm sure on a great scale, this must be happening every single day.
Every single minute. I mean, this has become the way of life, right?
Correct. But that also affects somebody who's blocking you and you are blocking somebody else.
Both ways. And both parties are very impacted. Because for you to block somebody is also a big step. Somebody I'm in love with them suddenly blocked. I'm going to feel real pangs, right? That I'm not being able to talk to that person. But now I've blocked, my ego comes in the way, so I'm not going to have the contact. And the other person who's gotten blocked doesn't know how to even explain themselves to you.
Correct.
Sunte lo. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. Maybe I'm repentive of what I did. Maybe, you know, there's a way to be able to find a path together. But now there is no conversations, communication.
Absolutely. And this is such a shortcut method. But a very, very harmful method, I would say. Very, very toxic method, I would say.
And this is, you know, channels of communication are all led from social media, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. That's it. You know, 2 or 3 places you block that person. The person doesn't know what's happening in your life. Then they social stalk you. I mean, there's a whole film, right? Kho Gaye Hum Kahan. I don't know whether you saw it on Netflix. And Zoya Akhtar. And she's beautifully articulated how, you know, this whole thing about block, unblock, social toxicity, stalking, social stalking. I mean, where are we going?
Correct. Very true. Very true. And I actually never thought about this, but it definitely takes a toll on the person who's doing it and person who's at the receiving end.
Yeah.
Both the parties. Yeah, very true. So now we come to breaking the mirror question. Tarun, what is the biggest myth about emotional wellness in India that you would like to bust today?
I think that there's something wrong with you. Every normal person is going through the same thing, right? There's nothing wrong with you if you seek emotional wellness support. And I think that's the big myth that, like you said in the beginning, that there has to be something wrong with you to seek help. It is normal.
Very true.
It is what it is, right? We are all in the same boat. The degrees may vary, but we are all in the same boat.
Just like how you have like migraine or any other problem, you know, in your body, you don't drastically think that, oh, I got cancer or I've got something else. You will just take some medicine or go to a doctor and treat it. Similarly, if you have some issues with your mind, with your mood, with your energy levels, go consult a doctor.
Correct.
It's as simple as that. There is no taboo around it. You don't have to feel that log kya kahenge, log mujhe pagal samjhenge, the perception that people have about you. That is why I always believe that your self-perception has to be far more important than what others perceive about you. Because although everybody thinks perception is reality, but at some point of time, self-perception is the belief system that you form for yourself. So that's the most important thing than anything else.
I love the title of your podcast. I mean, one of the reasons I agreed to it, Perceptions and Beyond, right? Because that beyond is a life that we never explore.
True.
Right? We build perceptions of everybody, and we want people to have a perception of us, and we want to live in this make-believe world. Yeah.
Very true. And I think we need to offload that stress from our mind. That, what people think is the most important thing. I always believe, because when I had a problem, my own perception about myself disaligned. I had to fix that first before anybody else would say anything about me. So my self-image is the most important thing.
The centering, the grounding and the alignment is the most important thing. Yeah.
Very true. Thank you so much, Tarun. This was a wonderful and a very valuable conversation that we had today. And I think a lot of myth that people have about, well-being and wellness overall has got busted. And I would say more and more people should be a part of community like COTO to find that space where they are able to come out, they are able to be themselves. And that's the most important thing, because if you really want your mental wellness to be aligned, you want a lifestyle which you feel is the best way to go forward in terms of, finding a sounding board, finding somebody who is like-minded, finding somebody who's safe to speak to. I think this is the go-to way of moving forward in life. So thank you
so much. I think, it was one of my most, awesome conversations, only because somebody who relates to the subject and has sometimes even, gone through the journey themselves can make so much more sense. And it was really good to have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Today's conversation with Tarun Katial showed us the technology and emotional wellness are no longer separate journeys. They are deeply intertwined. In the world obsessed with fast growth and vanity matrix, platforms like COTO remind us that building trust, safe communities, and emotional resilience are the real measures of digital success. If you believe in creating positive impact, championing mental health in digital world, and want to be a part of the next generation of mindful leaders, then like, share, and subscribe to Perception and Beyond. Stay connected, because real growth begins when you look beyond the obvious and start building with heart. Until next time, keep questioning, keep evolving, and keep shaping a better future with every conversation.